Welcome to Design Build Central, a podcast for design build remodelers by design build remodelers. I think it's the only one of its kind, you think?
I don't know.
I think it should be. Can we just
One
say
in a billion. Maybe if there are a billion other podcasts, there's one like this.
I'm Bruce Case.
I would be
partner
Bill
in crime.
Millholland.
Bill Millholland. We're excited to be here with you today, whether it's on YouTube or podcast or any other station that you want to listen
We're
to.
everywhere.
We're not on NBC yet. We're working on that. Amazon.
Yeah.
We don't, what
that
would you
whole
pick?
cable TV thing is dying. YouTube's a much better, much better
So
vehicle.
just so we're clear on that.
Maybe Netflix.
Ooh, and yeah, they might be hungry after the Warner
That's
Brothers
right.
whole thing.
They got some cash.
Exactly.
They got a little cash.
A reminder, if you're not a listener before, to email us anytime if you want forms, follow-up information. If you love us, send it to us. If you hate us, don't listen to the email address I'm going to share. It's dbcentral@casedesign.com, dbcentral@casedesign.com. So today we're going to talk about remodel. Oh, Bill, you have
I was going to ask if we should plug the Fred Case Award.
We should.
Because I think the deadline is
Thank you.
in July.
Yep.
And so again, just to put in a little bit of a summary of you don't have to change the world, right? It's how many million is the cap in terms of
8
dollars?
million.
8 million. So it's not for gigantic companies. It's
Right.
for people out there grinding every single day, trying to get better. If you're doing something that's just a little bit, smarter than the average bear, please submit. We would love to know about it.
Yep.
But secondly, we just love to have people come visit, spend the day with us, and celebrate your achievements. So please, you can Google the Fred Case Award.
Yep.
I think Qualified Remodeler is a partner in this,
Yep.
so it might be available there. It's pretty simple to apply.
It's a couple page application.
Yeah. So
You
do
can
it.
nominate yourself. I mean, most people do, frankly, and there's a monetary award, but also, as Bill sort of intimated, you get to spend a day here at Case, and we just frankly share what we do here at Case, how we do it, but also if you have ideas or thoughts, it's a good sharing of best practices.
It's a great day.
Yeah, I think you'd agree. The day is really more than the
without
cash.
question.
I think
Yeah.
for most,
Yeah.
for us too, but most
Yeah.
people is the
It's a
highlight.
good time.
Yeah, thank you. Good
So
plug.
sorry, interrupted.
No, that's cool. So on this episode, we're going to talk about remodeling compensation and that tricky balance of making it secure and financially stable for our team members, but also we want to be able to reward the folks who are really bringing it each and every day in a way that's higher, candidly, than sometimes when people aren't bringing it as much. So it's about the all-stars. We, at least at Case, don't want to be the company that just because you've been here 20 years, you make twice as much as someone who's been here 2 years.
Right.
We want to respect the tenure, of course.
I think one of the things we do is try and align compensation with results. So it's kind of results oriented. I think that's one thing. I think we like to focus on things that are fairly easily measured so that it's not this complicated calculus.
We do complicate it.
We
though,
do
somehow.
complicate it, but it is primarily based on GP dollars.
Right.
So that's fairly easily tracked. It's transparent. Everybody knows. It's not a big surprise.
It's a win-win for the company
Exactly.
too. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, third, and along the lines of what you said earlier, we really want the people that are pushing and succeeding to see success from that. And in terms of compensation, that they ought to be rewarded at a level that's different from somebody that does half as much or 3/4 as much or whatever. I think we have found over the years that formula to work well. It is not without troubles in some circumstances, and maybe we talk about that a little more. But I also think that it is fair, and I think most people, after experiencing it for a while, would be unhappy to go to another program.
Right. And I think most people would agree that it gives them the opportunity to actually make more than maybe the average if they're bringing it.
Right.
If they're not, there's an opportunity to make a little bit less than the average. But I think the kind of people we want on our team are the people who say, to be the ball coach.
Yep. I got this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
Another thing I think is important as a fundamental, but also I like about our compensation plan is everyone gets a statement every month.
That's a big deal.
I think so.
Yeah.
And even if it's great news, that's great. Even if it's not great news, in my style anyway, I can't speak for everybody, is tell me, like, be transparent about the negatives
Yep.
too.
Yep. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what's on that statement,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So on a typical statement of, it varies by role, of
Right.
course, but it's basically what's your draw
Mm-hmm.
annually, and then how much did you earn that month, or actually technically the last month or two,
Right.
based on jobs you've sold, or if you're a project manager, jobs you final billed, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes the draw, how much you've actually earned based on our commission programs. And then either you owe the company money or we owe you money.
Right.
And if we owe you money, we pay that money out.
Yep.
We, as you know, we keep some in reserve because next month might, things go up and down and you don't want to have to go in the negative.
Right.
So we keep a little in reserve. If you're in the negative, just to be clear to everybody watching and listening, we don't go and get a check from them. Right. It's like a bank statement. It carries into the next month.
Right.
So that, because again, things are up and down, and especially with larger job sizes.
Yep. But I think that statement is a big deal, that people can follow that.
One example for me that really hit home was actually our field team, because as you know, they get an hourly wage, they get benefits and all that, but they also get a percent of the gross profit dollars we bring in a job better than estimated. Right. So if a job hits estimate, it's zero bonus, or if it comes in below estimate, it's zero bonus. Comes in better, they get a percent. And for years, carpenters would see me, walking around, and they'd say, "How come I didn't get a bonus on the Jones job?" Or how come? And so now we mail a statement to their home every month that lets them know, here are the jobs that were closed out. It might be one job, none. It might be five, depends on their role. And you earned and shows the numbers. I mean, you earned a bonus on this and this much. This job came in below estimated. It has the numbers. You get a zero bonus. We don't take money back from carpenters.
Right. But they see it.
Which I think's, I don't know, my style. Tell me the good and the bad.
Well, there's also something about sunlight, that once it's exposed, it's like, oh,
right.
This happened, that happened. Next job, maybe I had to do it a little differently. Where if you don't know, you don't know.
Right. Or it's an opportunity, like you're saying, to go to my project manager in the case of a carpenter and say, hey, what happened on the Jones job, and get educated a little bit.
Yeah. And so you say, by everybody getting a statement, we mean craftsmen, the guys in the field doing the work, project managers, the guys that oversee that work, and then project developers, the people that sell that work.
Good point. There's certainly some roles.
Three roles that are primarily influenced by
And again, it's as you know, Bill, it's a monthly statement, which also I think Bill and I would agree is important, that there's some kind of ideally monthly, but quarterly to me would also work. But if it's only annually, a lot of remodelers I talk to, at the end of the year, if I make money, I give everyone a bonus. And to me, that's not rewarding the behavior quickly enough. Right. But also, is it transparent enough? Do people really know? Do you share the net profit and what percent? Or a lot of times it's sort of at the whim of the owner, I feel like. And that's very generous, but I don't feel like it's as motivational.
No, I definitely would agree with that. And I think the 1 month is that cadence works pretty well for our team. And maybe it's baggage we carry, just we're used to it. But even with, average job size of $200,000 plus or minus, it's still, there's enough activity that people can see, because maybe the other thing we ought to talk, so let's pick a project developer very specifically. On their statement is going to be what sold in that month, what started in that month, and then what completed, final bill, paid in full, and then 60 days past that. So we have time to reconcile any, thing that comes in a little later. So they see all of that activity. And again, we pay out a third on that signing, start, and completion. And the reason behind not doing it all at signing is that we want people to stay involved and influence that job as it goes. At start, because we want to make sure we hit the start date, so the incentive is aligned with our goals of starting on time. And then finally reconciling all of that at the end and cleaning it all up, and final bill paid in full 60 days past that. So we make sure we're not surprised by, the electrician sends in, an invoice 45 days later.
No, that wouldn't happen.
Which is, believe it or not, sometimes people don't like to be paid, and you have to beg them to send you the invoice. But at least on the developer side, that's kind of sort of how it works.
One thing you mentioned was at the last third, that final payment, you used the words cleaning it up. And just for listeners, so the first two payments that Bill mentioned, when the month after they sell it and the month after it starts, they get it on their statement. it's based on estimated GP, obviously, because we don't know the actual
Right.
GP. So we get a third, and then that leaves that final third, as you say, it's going to be based on actuals. So it kind of cleans it up in terms of, did they earn the full third
And
or more or less?
knock on wood, for the last several quarters, we've been right on it. So if not ahead, so nobody's
One
been
thing
surprised.
that is not an easy thing for me, at least, and I don't know if you have thoughts on it. I'm just sort of hitting you from the side here, but if I'm listening to this, even if I'm intrigued by it, right? The idea of keeping up with, okay, what jobs sold, what jobs started, what job,
Right.
Final build, not only every month, but also then I've got to go back and look 6 months ago. Oh, I already paid 2/3 on this.
Right.
The administration of it. Now in our case, we have a bonus software specifically we purchased to manage this, because we have about 20 project developers, a little less, but maybe 8 project managers. We have probably ballpark 60 people in the field. So there's a
So
lot.
it's spread out across a pretty
But
large.
you know what I mean? If I'm listening to this and I have 3 salespeople, like, any thoughts on that? It's a hard question.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the solution to that is. Maybe you have to manually track some of this stuff. Maybe there's a way to outsource some of this stuff, or maybe our system isn't right for you.
Right.
But I would think through the behavior you want to see, what the business needs to see, not an individual, and try and structure that payment around that. I sometimes you hear about, well, we pay sales a straight commission and it's as soon as it sells, and maybe that works for you. But then there's no real incentive for that person to stay involved with the project and make sure that, we're on track, that client is having the best experience they can, all of those sorts of things. So maybe 3 is too many and 2 is better. I'm not sure, but it's 2026. There has to be a tool out there somewhere that if this is something that is of interest to a person, maybe spending 2 or 3 hours figuring out what your options are. Before you do that, though, I would put some, pen to paper. What is it we're trying to do? What would this mean cash flow wise for the business? Is this aligned with what we want to be 2, 3, 5 years from now? Because the other thing is that once you start down a path, it's really, really, really difficult to change. And there are consequences to the change. So I would noodle it through, figure out what works best for you. And then find the way to make that happen.
So that transition that you're talking about, let's say I'm listening and I'm going to transition to some version of a bonus program on GB dollars, or maybe they pick somebody, a listener picks something else. That's a common question. Well, right now I pay hypothetically a base salary and, whatever that salary is, and maybe they get a bonus at the end of the year if we hit things. But I want to transition to something where maybe it's quarterly or monthly, they get some kind of a bonus or statement that's a little less base salary.
Right.
That transition is hard because when you mess with people's compensation, I think it's we all don't work for free. It's a big deal.
Right.
One thing I share, but I'd love to hear your take on it, is for some of the roles, like for project managers, I know that what we said to some of them was, we will run it both ways. Your current compensation plan, this new compensation plan at the end of the year, I'm telling you, if you bring it, this is going to pay you more.
Yep.
And we did that. And then after, it took a couple people a little longer, but about a year, they all got on it. So it does take time, in my opinion, but do you have any advice?
I think that makes perfect sense. It's either math or it's discretionary. So if you are paying somebody a salary and then at the end of the year you spin a wheel and wherever that lands,
that's a little flippant.
That's a bonus for somebody. A person in that role, that would be very hard to plan for. So if you could put on your sales cap and show them, like you just said, hey, if we did this and you did that, it would mean, and let's just run it parallel for the next 6 months. And let's see how it shakes out. Because this is a big risk for the business too, right? And let's make sure it works for everybody. But if it does, this is the direction we should head. Because if you do more, you deserve to be paid more. And I'm in a position now where I can't pay you more because I don't know if you're going to do more. So it may be uncomfortable at the beginning for some people. So I think your point of a parallel track and checking back and forth against that, but I think If it's a end of the year based on math, that's a little different.
Right.
But then you can do, the cost of money or whatever. You're waiting 12 months to get a bonus. Wouldn't it be better if we structured that quarterly? And if we did it quarterly, we would do it based on these sorts of things. And you just do the math to do it quarterly.
Right.
And you'll see it affects people's behavior. All of a sudden, instead of that happening in April, they'll try and pull that job back into March because they're going to get that check sooner in that corner, in that quarter. I mean, so I think you can influence behavior.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And the other thing in terms of transitioning to this kind of thing, in my opinion, is also the dynamic within the team, right? Because in our case, at least, project managers are paid on gross profit dollars. They get a monthly statement on jobs they close out. Bill mentioned earlier the project developers are paid on gross profit dollars. I mentioned earlier the field team gets a bonus if the gross profit dollars come in greater. So the whole team meaning the whole direct project team. Obviously, some people in the company aren't on this kind of plan, but those three roles are all tied to gross profit dollars. So I think I can speak for you. We feel like that's really, really important. So they all are focused on the same metric, and also it's a pretty important metric to the team. But one thing I hear a lot when I talk to other remodelers about this, well, what if the salesperson orders the tub wrong, or the designer, or whatever? Well, what if the PM knocks down the wrong wall and does something and it costs the job, and then it hurts everyone's bonus?
Right.
But we see this.
We see
we live
this.
it.
Yeah, we see this less now, I think, than we have in the past. I think you build processes and systems around this program to ensure as much as possible that those things don't happen. I think transparency and being able to see where those things are makes a big difference. But I think if you have people aligned around the same goal, that there is going to be some squabbling back and forth. But I hope people understand nobody's perfect. Every once in a while, somebody's going to screw up, and my time is coming.
Good point. Be careful.
My time is coming. So if we're going to run a tally on all of this, I'm not sure that that's something I'm interested in. I'd rather share, and I think hopefully it helps build a little bit of that team. Everybody's got the same goal. Everybody, and we've talked about this before. The magical thing about GP dollars is it's the best indicator of client experience, right?
Exactly.
It just is.
Yep.
So it's easy to track. It's all those sorts of things. So you are going to have some squabbling, no doubt.
Right.
So build some processes and systems around double checking cabinet orders, making sure production's involved in that cabinet order, making sure production gets a chance to look at proposals and drawings and estimates and contracts before it gets presented. Because then it's us and not you.
I love that. Because you're right. If we were to introduce a compensation program like this without, for instance, the project managers getting some real empowerment and say, even pre-sale on the pricing and on the job in general, it would be a problem. It would not work.
There would be a whole lot more, I didn't have enough to do this sort of stuff. And now it's but you agreed to this. You had a chance to look at all of this. You met the electrician on the job
We should have
site.
a podcast episode on the handoff between production and sales and how that goes.
Might
What
be
do
a
you think?
future episode.
Yeah,
coming
just teasing
soon.
the next episode
Well,
potentially.
you're getting good at this, man.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
getting good at this.
Yeah, that's
You got
awesome.
a future ahead of you,
Trying to
young
get into
man.
YouTube. Another thing we wanted to hit on with our compensation program, there's a certain level for every business, certainly ours, where if the GP dollars or GP percent, I should say, on a project gets below a certain level, candidly, it would have been better to give the client $100 and say, please don't work with us. We're losing money at that point.
Yep.
And so maybe you could touch on that step down that we have.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. Is it 10, 15 points?
About
It's a significant amount below what was estimated. If the job comes in at that, it affects people's compensation. The percentage they get paid gets cut in almost half.
Yep.
So it's a significant drop. But we don't have the money to pay them estimated. Now we're dealing with actual, and it's decreased a lot. And again, it's an indication that experience was tarnished. So we might have lost we lost dollars in that. That's bad enough. If we lost a client in that,
and we probably have,
then that's really bad. And there ought to be a little bit of pain and suffering for everybody, Case as well. But that's just something, again, there's plenty of incentive to stay above that so
Right.
you don't get hurt by that. And that happens very, very, very rarely.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Yeah. And it's kind of a big deal
Big
for
deal.
the company, for the client, but
Yep.
also obviously for the team involved.
Yep.
What else do we need to hit on with compensation?
I don't know. I think just the idea of one size doesn't fit all.
Yep.
I think the really innovative thing that you pushed was the getting the project managers on a similar program
Yeah.
that as, you know, a share of what they produced. And I bet if you said, okay, let's take the average GP dollars produced by a design build project manager across the board, our PMs probably produce more.
Right.
And they probably produce more not because they're geniuses. They are.
They're hustling.
But they're hustling. And they're also very, very focused on the bottom line.
Right.
You know, that they don't want to give up a nickel on this job because it costs them. They have skin in the game.
Right.
So they're really pushing to make sure we hit those targets. And I think that's very helpful when that is perfectly aligned with the guy in the field and the guy that or lady that sold the job as well. So
yeah. I feel like we saw some of that just as an example when COVID hit, and a lot us, but also most remodelers were just had work coming out of their ears. And a lot of remodelers I talked to, actually their income though that year or two wasn't that good because they weren't able to produce the work, and we all make our money when we produce it. But with these plans, when you do tie them, it's not just about the PMs. The sales team has, in our case, a vested interest in it starting and finishing as well. I think it helped the team. Now, they were at a pace we couldn't sustain long-term, certainly, but they were willing to do it for a little bit. I mean, they partly to help the team and the clients, but also because of their compensation.
Right. Where others might have either had to push that job off or have to scale up. So now you got to hire 2 more project managers. And all of a sudden, 12 months, 18 months from now, do you still have enough? Hopefully, but maybe not. And then what do you do? Where if somebody sees, if I could do another 10, 15% this year, I make more money. I'm willing to, you know, put in a little more effort to do that. And it, you know, it allows maybe you to scale the business without adding people.
Which I think is critical because this business is cyclical. I mean, it is. I mean, there's times that are tougher sledding, like for instance, right now, and there's times when it's raining from the sky and it's, you know, more keeping up with it. So, cool. Anything else?
No, I can't other than think about this. You know, it's an important topic, you know. Maybe grab some people that would be involved in this. Maybe talk about how the business, how it would have to work for everybody at the table. And, you know, and think about what it is you want to see happen and try and align incentives around that.
Yep. And just as a quick plug on that, we've certainly thought about how do we line it around client experience more directly. I'm sure some listeners are like, oh, GP dollars, that's all financial.
That's it.
But as you've said a couple times, GP dollars directly ties into the client happiness, number one. Number two is client experience sometimes is harder to measure. I mean, right now we send out surveys to all our clients, and we might get 30, 40% response rates. And is that really a fair way to base compensation? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So, something to think about.
Yep.
Well, thank you all very much for watching, listening today. We're excited to have you with us. Don't forget DB Central. I want to say design. DB Central at casedesign.com, and join us for the next episode. Take care.
Thanks.